All right, we're back with State of Runeterra. We're doing another faction right now. It's Shadow Isles. So Shadow Isles is pretty much the undead recursion bad place where all the undead and the bad things go. So I will say their champion pool is pretty awesome. Have some of the strongest champions in the game. Like when Horsey Man, excuse me, Hakaram, is your worst champion, your champion pool is in a pretty good state. I leave deep out of rankings because deep is its own thing, and deep is good. It's just dependent on how good it is at the time. So, um, in general, they're aggro, they're undead, they're hollowed, they're killing, slaying, getting around, killing, grabbing souls, taking everything. Sort of faction. So I will say I was surprised how many cards in this faction after looking at it were playable and how many weren't. I got to about 8 that weren't playable. If you want to call him one of them, you can. If not, it's closer to 7. Uh, in general, this faction is great. This faction has been strong at all times. Gwyn is probably top 3, 4 champions in the game, if not one. Kindred is probably top 10 champions in the game. Kliss is much better since she got a health buff, period, and things are just better with her ability. Elise has been dominant several times. There's several tricks to make her spiders huge and fun. Vigar was very dominant when he comes out. I think he's in a different place. I don't think he's bad. I don't think he's unplayable with the Senna because Senna is probably dope, and she will find a new home at some point too because she's just too good to not mess with. Viego just stealing powerful stuff and making the miss is like his whole kit is gross, and Thresh, him and Nasus will always have a home together, let alone somebody else and somebody else. He's been in about 4 or 5 decks that are kind of aristocratic. You know, you're trying to sack your dudes to get to other dudes. Blah, blah, blah. That's kind of the goal. So I'll say they don't try to reinvent the wheel. They don't try to do anything fancy. They just do what they do. They're okay with dying. They're okay with killing something to bring something. They're okay with killing something to get bigger. They give you something when they die. They have last breath abilities. They have weird combos that go off and are strong. They don't mind buffing their creatures to death to get more bonuses. Their creatures are good. Very few of them are unplayable. They have a great Tailstone. They had the most busted card in the game. Now it's just alright. Still playable, not abysmal. So, in general, like this faction kills itself, other things. You know, Evelyn would be part of that thought process, even though she's a Runeterra champion. She plays like a Shadows Isles champion. Pretty much, there's very few bad cards in this. There's cards that you're just not going to play because they don't work. But I will say it has some of the funnest, most interesting. Like, I think it is the faction that makes you choose between 2 not great choices for you. That's the faction in its nutshell. Is like, which one do you want to deal with right now, and which one do you have to deal with later? Because I definitely put him on that mark. You can't even deal with him. You'd have to deal with whatever's going to come at you. So, in general, about every card is just, some aren't just good enough, but some are still playable in different archetypes. Like, I would say, like, that's one of the few, and even there's more. So, that are just good and strong, and there's not very many things in this that don't have a purpose for some sort of deck and have different ways to occur for different reasons. Whether it's Miscall, you're trying to bring back Anivia's, or a certain champion, or race, or whatever. There's really like few cards that are just not good, and few cards that just don't get better. Like, he's even good with the new Vault how it is. I mean, he'll always be good in some fashion. Like, few cards like this guy's not good. And even this has been funny because I've seen it in a ephemeral deck before, and it's been pretty cute, I gotta admit. So, like, they just draw spells, do stuff, kill stuff. Like, there's few memeable cards in here. There's few cards in here that you're not like, hey, that card's awful. Like, these are 3 of them right here. And you want this one to work. It just doesn't. So, like, it's fun. It drains you. It heals itself. It's literally death making you deal with life and death. And to be honest, it's had some of the best spells in the game, from Vengeance, Atrocity, like the best kill spells in the game, because it's not like you have to do so much damage, you have to do this. No, you kill it. That's what they do. So, like, they have so much kill, like, kill's not even good. Like, this guy's not even good. I thought it would be dope when he comes out, not even remotely playable. So, like, there's just nothing wrong with this faction. It's always going to be steady. It's always going to give you interesting ways to play the game, strong ways to play the game. It is very much, you have to deal with my shit all the time, and there's just more coming. And that's just how this deck works. It's going to keep, it's very rare that you get Shadow Isles on such a back foot that when you're in the late game, that they don't have the answer. They're putting you on the clock because they're Shadow Isles. That's the point of them. So, in general, and it also gives you fun, memeable things. Like, this is a fun, memeable thing. Who doesn't want to make 5/5s? You know? Who doesn't want this guy to work? Even though he kind of doesn't work, and he's real close to working. He just doesn't work, So, like, he's not bad. He's just not as good as some things else. Sometimes he's alright, So, you just got to think about it in this aspect that this is the faction. It's always going to be consistent. It's always going to do what it doesn't. It's not going to surprise you very much. Like, the most surprise I think anybody's ever been is like Matron Cytheria 10 or Matron Watcher, what, just out of nowhere. That's about as like out of nowhere shocular as they get, and still it's just a power play. It's not really a, what would you say, like, it's not like Piltover Trixie or some sort of, the Black Flame sort of thought process. It's we're over the top evil, over the top dead, over the top, like, I wouldn't say shamanistic, but like clarinistic. We're used to dealing with death and the bad things, and the oogity boogity. So, I say this faction's fun. This faction has been played multiple ways, in like a Nasus Thresh way, in just regular beat 'em up aggro, regular attrition. We got more dudes than you because our dudes make dudes, and our dude killed your dude with a spell sort of mentality. So, I mean, you can't go wrong with Shadow Isles. I wouldn't say it's ever. That's untrue. Because of Atrocity, it's been probably one of the top 3 standard bearers the whole time. So, you just can't go wrong. And I mean, there's very few things like this is one of the most unplayable cards, and it's still good. It's just, why would you play that when you probably want to kill everything unless you're playing Darken, you know? So, those are my thoughts on it. I would love to see York and some sort of, his little dudes and the real Spectral Maiden I want to see. Hopefully not that one, you know. I'd rather see his maiden than, that maiden. You know what I mean? I'd rather see some other things going on. I don't know. I don't mind how it kills. The only real problem right now, I would say, is Gwen is hollowed, is just too damn good for no reason. No offense. She's just busted. Nocturne's real good in the Fearsome deck. I feel like that deck's about to take a hit because it's about to lose a lot of dudes, but Nocturne with his buff has been really consistent. I enjoyed playing that Noxus Shadowrun's Fearsome. I think it's a weird deck to pilot because it doesn't think about aggro in the same way. But it's really fun. Anything with Kindred going off, you're going to have a good time. Callista looks better on paper than reality, but she's still not horrible because you kind of don't care if they waste a spell on an inferior creature to kill her. You're like, cool, do it. Plus, she's big-butted when she's turned over. She's 4/5 now. Those are big-ass stats, for a 3-drop, So, plus, she's great. It's just really the spiders. Her flipping is good, but it's only good on aggro. It's not good on anything else, but you're kind of on the aggro tilt with that anyway, if that's what you're doing. Anyway, those are my thoughts. I think this faction's a whole lot of fun. I've played this faction probably the most, and I've pretty much come to the conclusion that it will always be consistent because its archetype is made to be consistent, because they will always print more stuff for it at a faster, better pace than somebody else because it's supposed to be the kill faction. And they can't let somebody take them over on that because that's supposed to be their bread and butter. So, those are my thoughts. I just want to see new, different play styles of that. I mean, maybe something weirdly creatures that have died, a reason to care after the fact. Like one of the champions actually have a graveyard for shit or something of that nature. Or, in general, just like new ways like Yorick, or even, like Necrid would be interesting from, the Ruin King game or something like that. I'd love to see a lot of different play styles of aggro that aren't what we have right now, or a different control set that would be interesting, that would kind of make these Sentinels, like a Sentinel deck would be fucking dope, because we have them, we just, and they're big, and I would love to see something good, because this guy is pretty good. A 5/4 for 3. You can't complain. The other one do 2 damage, The Sentinels aren't bad. I think I wouldn't mind seeing a Sinnold deck. So anyway, those are my thoughts. Anything you would like to see, or a thought process on what you would like to see that's not too broken or busted, let us know. Talk to you later.